Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Jump In Let's Play. This week we're taking a look at the exploration game Northgard Uncharted Lands based on the popular video game. So we'll go down below, we will check out how the game is played and then come back up for our final thoughts. See you soon. So guys, here we are all set up and ready to go for Northgard. As with all our Let's Plays, we'll go through the setup. There's a fair bit to discuss here, and we'll give you an idea of the gameplay as well. We'll give you a step-by-step guide on that. So, we'll start up here. We've got our tiles that will be explored as the game goes on. Next to these, we have various resources. We've got our points. These will be awarded to us for mostly territories when we complete a territory and when we do our harvest, as well as these. We will score these during our harvest as well, and we use these to either pay for our troops, complete buildings, or buying upgrades and the like. Here we have a variety of different decks. We've got some Unrest cards here, so these will be put into your deck if you can't pay any costs during the winter, so if you can't feed your army. Here we have a deck of various upgrades. So we start on the development cards and then we move through to the next pile, the advanced development. So there's 4 early development cards and then 8 advanced development cards, because we're looking at a 2-player game here. And then next to it we've got 2 advances here. These will be used in the very last round of the game, so new cards will be revealed each game. We've got our dice here. These will be used for the combat, and each player has a similar setup. So they've got their units here. They start with 2 wood and 2 food here. We've got our clan upgrade cards, so we can get these and add them to our deck during the course of the game. We have our starting deck, which is 7 cards. So each player has 6 cards that are exactly the same as everyone else's, and 1 card that is their initial sort of clan power. And we have ourselves a reference card here as well. The rulebook does advise to kind of keep it in this setup so that the area in front is your active area when you're playing cards, and to the right of the player reference is your discard pile, just to make it easier for everything. Here we've got our starting tile. Each player draws 3 tiles from the stack at the very start of the game during the setup. They will then take turns, one at a time, placing 1 tile each until everyone's placed 2. So you can see here we've got 5 tiles set up. When they place a tile, they can add 3 units to that newly placed tile. So there we go. We are all set up and ready to go. So the game itself is played over the course of 7 years, and each year has 5 phases to it. So we have the start of the year. In the start of the year, this will be where we draw cards equal to the number of players from the development deck. So we've already got that started as part of the setup. And then each player is drawing 4 cards from their deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that leaves us 3 cards in there, and this player would do the same as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've got their cards. We'll just put them off there for the moment, and we've got our cards here. So that is everything for the start of the year. And we then move to the actions. So this will be where we can do a different type of action. Here we can see we've got a build. This will allow us to build one of these constructions here. These will have different costs. The smaller ones have a cost of 1 wood, and the larger ones have a cost of 2 wood. Now there are some restrictions. These larger ones can only be placed in these larger tile spaces here, and the small ones can only be placed in these squares here. However, this one can only be placed in a square that has got a sort of outline of this image on it, so do beware of that, whereas these can be placed in any of those squares, including the one that may have that image. Each of them will provide a different resource or benefit to us, such as points, drawing cards, collecting resources, defense, attack, things like that. So we have got our choice of a variety of different actions. So we can play a card. So all we would do is we would take a card, we'd play it face up in front of our active area so that we know that we've used that, and then we would perform the action. We can also wait, so you can just pick a card from your hand and place it down in the active area without resolving any effects. You can replace a card, so you can play one of these face down or face up in front of your active area, spend 1 law, which is these little stone tablets, and then you draw a new card from your deck. You can remove a card. This is handy if, say, you want to get rid of some of the starting cards, for example. You remove it from the game by spending 2, and then you draw 2 new cards from your own draw pile. Or you can upgrade, so you can either play a card face up without resolving its effects, or remove it from the game and spend 2 law, which allows you to take one of your clan upgrade cards and add it to your deck. And then finally, you can pass. So you discard all cards that are left in your hand. So if you either can't do any more actions or you don't want to do any more actions, you declare that you pass. You then discard all your cards into your discard area here. And then you will take a card from the development area up here and place it on top of your draw pile. And then if you're the first player to pass, you also take the first player token. After that, we move to the harvest phase. This is where we will gain all these different resources. We'll gain fame, which is ultimately what we need to score the points at the end of the game. We'll also be collecting resources from a variety of different buildings. So we've got buildings here that give us food and woods and lore. Also on here, you can see some of these have tokens on them that we will be able to collect from there as well. And then we can trade resources if we so chose. That will be discarding 3 resources of any type to take 1 resource of your chosen type. So there's a bit of a sort of payment cost there for it. We then move into winter, and in winter is where we pay our costs to keep our army going. Depending on the size of your army, will depend on how many resources you need to get rid of. So, for example, if we've only got 3 units, we don't need to pay anything. If we've got 4 to 6, as we have at the moment, we would need to make sure that we pay 1 food for that, and then the resources that need to be paid will increase from there. If you can't do your payment, you pay as much as you can. You then take one of these and it gets added to your draw pile. So it gets added to the top. You can see here it gives us a -5 points at the end, and it can't be removed from the game. So there's a bit of management in regards to the resources to make sure that your army is well fed. And then we go for the end of the year. So at the end of the year, we will check for end of game conditions. There'll be 2 ways that the game can end: when either any player has got 3 closed kingdoms with at least 1 building, large building in each of them. That is the Altar of Kings, this one here that gains us fame. The Forge here, which gains us cards. Or the Fortress here, which gives us some attack value. So if you have all 3 of those in 3 enclosed kingdoms or into closed territories, then the game is over. Or if we get to the 7th year, at the end of the 7th year, the game will finish. You also do a second chance for people. So if no one's got any units left, they've been wiped off, they can take a new group of 3 units and add them to an empty territory somewhere on the board. And then we move the year token up to the next one to signify the next round. So let's go through the actions. So there's quite a few actions in this game. We'll start off with our basic ones here. So we have got builds. So this will allow us to build something. So at the moment we could build in this area here. We could build in this area here. We can move. So we can move any amount of units from one territory to another, and that will count as 1 movement. So for example, we could take these 2 and move them here, for example, or we could decide that we're going to move these 2 into here because they're touching, which would trigger an attack. But for now, we're not going to do that. We've got recruit as well. So this will allow you to take one of your guys and add it to a territory that you own. if you have a certain building, this one here, for example, and you play the recruit action, that allows you to recruit an additional person. And then we've got explore, which is where we will get a tile from the top of the pile here. Okay, so what we are going to do first is we're going to build. So we will pick this one, we will place this face up in front of our area to say that we have used that. We will then build. So we're going to spend one of our woods here. And we're going to build one of these. So we're going to take this one here. And we're going to place it there. So that now means that when we recruit, we can get an extra person as we recruit. So that is our one done. So then this player will take a look at their cards. Right, so we've got a couple extra here. So this one is a clan-specific card, and it will tell you what you need to do. This one here is a wild card, so it will allow you to do one of these 4 actions, and we've got these 2 as well. So, for example, if they will spend this one, and they will build. So they will do a build action 2. So they will take one of these. So this one here has a skull on it. So this means that when they get attacked, so we'll put that in there. So we'll spend that. So that means that if this gets attacked, then they will automatically add 1 wound to the combat. So the other player will take a wound in the combat. So setting up their defences there. So we come back to us. So we're going to do our recruit action. So we do that there. So we recruit. We're going to put them both in here. Like so. And then we move to this player. So this player is going to move. So they're going to move 1 up there. Then we come back to ourselves here. And we've got move and we've got explore. So let's go move and we will show you combat. So we're going to move. So we get to move as many guys as we like. This is only a move 1. So we can only move from one territory to an adjacent territory. So we're going to go from here. We're going to move 4 and we're going to move them here. So this will trigger a combat. So the combat is resolved using 4 different elements. We will look at the number of participating units, any potential bonuses coming from the move action for the attacker or from buildings for the defender, any number of discarded foods. So we'll discuss that in just a moment. And then the roll of the dice as well. So each player will be given a dice. So we'll go through this step by step. We'll count our forces. We've got 4 versus 4. So that gives each player an equal footing 4 on 4. So we factor in any bonuses. There aren't any bonuses yet, but there will be on cards in this deck as time goes on. So we would add in for the attacker any bonuses displayed on the move action. So sometimes the move action will give us attack bonuses or any clan powers that we may have. And the defender will add any attack from buildings. So for example, this one here would give them +2. But they don't have any at the moment. We'll then go to the food. So starting with the attacking player, they can decide to spend food, 1 food per unit, to increase their attack. Once they've decided what they'd like to spend, it then goes to the defending player and they will decide what they would like to do as well. So say for this instance, we're going to pay 1 there. So we've got a thing of 5. The attacker is going to decide that they're not going to spend it. So we have got 5 versus 4 at the moment. So each player will then roll their dice. So we'll roll ours. So we've got this here and they will roll theirs. Okay, so we will now look at the resolution of this. So we said that we were at 5. So this puts us at 6. These were at 4. This puts them at 6 as well. We also have wounds on here. So we will discuss those as well. So at the moment, it's a tie. So the defender will be winning, but we need to apply our casualties as well. So we've got 6 versus 6. Each one has a casualty. So we remove 1 from ours and they remove 1 from theirs. And that ends the combat. because we had a tie, the defender actually wins in any ties, so the losing army has to retreat, and they retreat back to a friendly territory, and that is the combat there. So that is all done. So we'll move to this player here. So they have got a recruit, and they have got their Raven power here, which allows them to draw 2 tiles. That's these here. They can choose one and place one on the bottom of the pile. So let's go for that one. So they're going to do this. So they pick their 2 tiles, and they will choose one, and they will place put one on. What did it say there? On top of the pile, on the bottom of the pile. There we go. So we're going to put that one on the bottom of that pile. We're going to keep this one here. Now, when you're placing these, you do need to keep notes of the borders around here. So, for example, I mean, this one should be fairly easy, but if there was a borderline and it wasn't touching another borderline, we wouldn't be able to place it. So we could place it here, for example, at the moment, or we could decide to place it here, or we can place it like so, closing off our territory here. If we do that and it closes off the territory, then we earn points equal to the amount of tiles forming that new territory. So we've got 1, 2, 3, so we gain ourselves 3 points. We keep these face down in front of us like so. This will also come into effect in the later stages of the game. So we go to the first player, and they have got Explore. So let's take a look. So we show off the top tile here. So we've got this one. So what we can do is we can place it in there, and this finishes off this area as well. So we get 1, 2, 3 for that. So 1, 2, and 3, and we keep those face up in front of us. So this player here, they've got a recruit action left, so they will use that. They'll recruit and they'll place someone back in here. So we come to us, we've got no cards, so we're going to pass, which means that we get to choose one of these 2. So let's go for Shield Breaker, if we can pick it up. There we go. So Shield Breaker, this is going to give us a movement of 2. Now this is really handy. I'll explain that in just a moment. We also have here an effect as well. During each combat, cancel 1 wounds inflicted by the defender. So in that previous combat, if we'd had this and we'd moved in, then we could have kept our warrior. We would have been fine. But it allows us to move 2. Now, moving 2 is especially useful for moving over rough borders. So a rough border, the line in yellow here, you will need 2 movement. It basically doubles your movement to be able to move over it. So we've got that, and that goes on top of our draw pile. This player then passes, so they get the other cards, and then these go to our discard areas. Now that we've done that, we will move to the harvest, and we will take a look and see what we get. So we start with fame from closed territory. So we'll start with the red player here. So if you've got a closed territory on 2 tiles, that gets you 1. And if you have a territory larger than 2 tiles, so 3 tiles or more, that will gain you 2. So you can see here we've got 1 from this one, and we get 2 from this one here. So we got 1, 2. We'll then take a look at our resources and any additional fame that we might get. So we take a look around. So we don't get any resources from this. This is a recruit action. However, we do get ourselves another food. So we get 1 of those. And there's no additional fame or lore or wood that we are collecting at the moment. So we'll now move to the blue player, and they will take a look at theirs. So they have got 1 complete territory here. So that earns them 2 points. 1, 2 points there. So we'll keep those face down. And then they also earn a wood for this here. So they get a wood back. If anyone wants to trade any resources, they can. We're not going to at the moment. And then we move to the winter. So in the winter, we need to take a look and see how many people we have, and then that will tell us how much food it's going to cost us. So the red player here has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to cost us 2 food. So we've got 2 food here. That's all we've got. We have to pay that. Our army is fed for the winter. We then go over to the blue player. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So between 4 and 6, they pay just the 1 food. And then we go to the end of the year to check any end of game conditions. Obviously, very early. No one will have been wiped out, so there's no second chances just yet. And we're nowhere near the end game conditions. So we move this forward. We reveal the next 2 cards. And these will be the last 2 of the early development cards. From rounds 3 to 6, it will be our advanced development. And round 7, it will be these achievement cards here. So we would then draw 4 cards again. 1, 2, 3, 4 we've got there. 1, 2, 3, 4 they've got there. So everyone's got their cards drawn. Because we pass first, we stay as the first player, and then we will take a look again and see what we want to do. So we've got a few different options. We've got 2 of our wild cards, which gives us a nice option indeed. We've also got our wolf clan. So this one will allow us to cross rough borders with no penalty, which is nice. And then the shield bearer there, which we explained earlier. So there's a few options for us. And then we would keep going like that, back and forth, until we've met one of those end of game conditions. So we'll go back up top and take a look through our final thoughts on the game. So we'll see you in a moment. Thank you. So that was a playthrough, an example turn of Northgard, including the setup as well. I hope that you found that useful. So we'll dive into the box, discuss the gameplay, discuss the components and my overall thoughts about the game. So we'll start off crucially with the rulebook. Now this rulebook, there's a fair bit to it, there's a lot of pages in here. However, as you may have seen, we did the unboxing video. It is very well laid out. Bright, colourful, clear. Each page is well presented. There's no tiny writing, there's no massive bodies of text. And each sort of action that you have at your disposal, depending on what card you have of course, has a page or 2 dedicated to that. So that is always good to see, and the rulebook makes it fairly easy to follow through everything that you need to get through. So that's an A+ on the rulebook for that one. The components themselves, so we'll just dive in. The cards here, these are sort of like the standard quality that we're expecting. That's no minor against it, that's a very good thing. It's good quality cards, really good stock, so it's good to see that the game is keeping up with that. We've also then got the cardboard chits that they're using for the buildings as well as the resources. So with the resources, again, we're looking at the kind of typical standards that we do expect from these games. These are nice, durable pieces. They're very clear. This is clearly a crown. You have the values on the other side, and the same with these as well. You've got the individual resources and then the ones with the multiplier, the 5 times multiplier. Very clearly different sizes. Each resource is clearly different to the other. You're not going to mistake one for another, which sounds a bit of a silly thing to point out, but there are games out there that have resources that look similar and can confuse players. So that is always good to see with those. The real standout for me in terms of the cardboard chits are the buildings themselves. These are sort of like double size thickness, so they really do stand out. So that you can get knocked about a bit, they can stand up to a lot of playthrough. You might knock them with your miniatures, for example. You might knock them with the dice, so it's good that they kind of have that durability to them. The dice as well are very clear. Each side clearly delineates exactly what it's supposed to do, so there's no confusion over that. And then we get to the miniatures themselves. So we've got 2 types of miniatures. We have got the standard miniatures for all of the players. They have 7 male, 7 female. They don't actually make any difference in the gameplay themselves, but it is good to see a nice little variety there of different types of Vikings. So those are really nice. They come pre-coloured, as you can see here. If you want to paint them, that is something that you can do, but they're clearly defined. You're not mixing up with anyone else. The other miniatures, which we showed in the unboxing, but we didn't show in the Let's Play here itself, are the monsters. So this is an optional module that you can add into your game. It recommends to play the first couple of games just with the basic rules. You can add the modules in later, and these are creatures and monsters that are going to be turning up over the course of the game. So we've got the bear, we've got a Draugr here, which is sort of like a Viking zombie, looks really cool. We've got wolves. You can't have a Viking game without having some wolves in here, for example. They're all very detailed and lend themselves really well to being painted. We've got a fallen Valkyrie there as well. They're really nice pieces. As I said, they are optional to the game, but if you want to chuck those in, you can, and I imagine that they'd look fantastic painted. The final component is really the tiles themselves. So it clearly tells you which one is the starting tile and which ones are the tiles you'll just be using over the course of the game. They're good quality, good thickness, very sturdy, and you can see that the border lines on these are very clear, even when you bring into account the extra features, like we've got the woodland there. On top of that as well, each area within the different borders are clearly defined, so we can see that we've got woods here. You can see that you've got spaces here for different types of buildings, and the same here as well. They managed to make those stand out quite nicely. Just a subtle contrast, but enough to be able to see that that's there. The only issue that you may have is dependent on the amount of units you have on there, but it's not really that much of an issue. So those are the last of the components there. Again, said really, really good quality. Onto the gameplay itself. So I found that the gameplay was very intuitive. It's very simple kind of flow between phases. You have your start phase where everyone draws cards at readies, and someone will draw the 2 cards from the development deck for our demo, for example. Obviously more cards if you have more players. And then you go into the action step where people will be playing cards, upgrading cards and things like that, or passing in order to get the first dibs on the development cards. We then got the harvest phase, which is basically just resource management, which flows nicely into the winter phase where you'll be paying for your various different armies. And then finally an end of year phase where you'll just be checking for any end of game triggers. So that all flows really nicely, but the real depth of the game is within the choices that you make in each of those different phases. So for example, we can see here, let's grab these. So we've got all the different types of cards here. So these are the early and advanced development cards that will allow you to do different things as time goes on, and you'll be adding these to your deck throughout the game. And they have a variety of different actions. They'll also have bonuses there that you'll be able to use as well. You of course start off with the basic actions, which is enough to get you started. So that's really where the sort of depth of gameplay comes in, not through the complexity of the rules, but through the complexity of the options presented to you, how you're going to do things, and not just how you're going to do things, which order you're going to do those things first. Maybe you're going to explore and then move, or maybe you're going to explore and then build, for example. There's a few different ways, depending on which way you want to chain those different actions. So I really do like the possibilities there. And then combine that with the randomness of how the development cards will be coming out, because not all of them are used in any game. Even with 5 players, you're still going to have cards that are left out of the game, which just adds more option, more variety, as well as all of the tiles as well. You probably won't go through all of these tiles, and there'll always be a different combination as they come out. So that is everything for Northgard. I absolutely loved this game. I really enjoyed the combat. I thought it was really clean, but for me it was all about the exploring, it was about the resource management, which kind of shows for me a different side to the Vikings as explorers and not just pillagers and raiders. So it's really nice to see that. We've had a few people into play already. One of them likened it to a more combat-oriented Carcassonne when you're laying the tiles, and it's hard to disagree with that. It certainly has that kind of matching features feel that Carcassonne has, but to a much greater depth. If you want to give this game a go, it is available in the board games library. It's £2 per person. We do have a regular booking on Monday evenings where we get people together to try out some more of the thematic games, cooperative games, light RP sort of style games. So we'll be adding that to that body of games alongside others such as Ultra, which is another RPG inspired game. So if you want to get in on that, you can try it, or you can just play it anytime you'd like whenever you're free in the shop. Works really well 2 players, gets better as you add more players in. That is my final thoughts for Northgard. It's coming out sometime in July, so if you'd like to order it through us, just let us know. We can make sure that we add that to our existing pre-orders. It's $74.95 retail, so a lot of money there, but you get a lot of heft, a lot of bang for your buck there. So, Northgard, fantastic. If you're going to go Viking, Northgard is the game to do it with. We'll see you soon, guys. Catch you in the boardroom.